Secretly recorded from deep inside the bowels of a decommissioned missile silo, we bring you the man, one single man who wants to bring light to the darkness and dark to the lightness. Although he's not always right, he is always certain. So now, with security protocols in place, the protesters have been forced back behind the barricades and the blast doors are now sealed. Without further delay, let me introduce you to the host of Hutcast, Mr. Tim Hutner.
Thank you, Sergeant-at-Arms. You can now take your post.
Today on Hutcast, this glorious Sunday afternoon, special guest stars Martha Cothren. Now, Martha did a unique and very noble thing in her school district. So stand by for Hutcast, so you're going to want to listen to what Martha actually has to say today.
We hear a lot about air quality these days, so keeping your indoor equipment running clean and efficiently is important to your health. The experts at Dependable Heating and Cooling in Coon Rapids have been servicing the Twin City areas for more than 25 years. With the latest and most efficient technology available, they will repair or replace your equipment and keep your indoor air healthy and comfortable. Call 763-757-5040. Our team of experts is standing by, waiting to help you with all your indoor needs. Mention you've heard about this by listening to the Hutcast podcast, and you will receive a $50 off any repair. That's Dependable Heating and Cooling. 763-757-5040. Dependable Heating and Cooling.
Welcome to Hutcast. Hutcast, Martha Cothren on the phone today, and she has done something extraordinary in her school district, her world, her stuff that we can all look up to and just admire that someone actually had the foresight to actually do this. So she's with us on the line. She's remote from Arkansas. Martha, can you hear us?
I can hear you very well, thank you.
Okay. You know, a lot of people haven't heard this story, but a lot of people have. And it, like you said, it keeps surfacing up on Facebook, social medias. Will you give us a rundown of what kind of happened?
Surely. It is Arkansas state law that the Pledge of Allegiance be said in our public schools every morning. And I had never had any trouble, but I had some teachers come to me at the end of a school year and say, we can't get the kids to stand for the pledge. Do you have any ideas?
Okay.
And I said, well, let me think about it, and I'll see what I can come up with. And over the summer, I thought, this shouldn't be a problem at all. And to understand, my dad was the 24th American captured in World War II by the Germans.
Oh, wow.
And was liberated by the Russians. So I grew up knowing what the cost of freedom really was. And it just didn't sit right with me, and it's so prevalent in society today that our kids didn't understand why the flag is important. So I came up with an idea. I had some help from our school custodian and some of the other teachers, and I took all the chairs out of my classroom for the first day of school. And when the kids walked in, they said, where are our desks? And I told them, you are guaranteed a free public education. You are not guaranteed a chair. Have a seat.
Okay.
And I had some towels and sheets and old stuff there so they wouldn't get their little bottoms dirty sitting on the floor. And, of course, the question started, well, how do we get them back? And I said, well, that's what I want you to think about. I want y'all to think and decide, come up with one. So, of course, they came up with good grades. And I said, no, I do want you to have good grades, but that's not it. And then good behavior. And I said, no, you will behave. But that's not it either. So it went off and on. And I really, really wanted the kids to get all upset and call their parents and say, this is crazy. Coach Cothren won't give us a chair. very blessed that my kids and I always got along well. And they knew there was something, but they couldn't figure out what. So as the classes began to change during that day, the kids came and went with the same questions. And, of course, by noon, the word had spread throughout the school that Coach Cothren had lost her mind. And the kids just kept it up. And, of course, the teachers had come by and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Just wait." So at the end of the day, it was the very last class, and there was only maybe 2 minutes left before the bell would ring. And I looked at the students, and I said, "All day, y'all have wanted to know how you earn your desk."
Okay.
And I looked up at the classroom door, and it swung slowly open. And in walked a group of veterans, each carrying their chairs. And with tears running down my cheeks, I told the kids, "You don't have to earn your desk. These people have done it for you." And they put the chairs in rows and then went and stood against the wall as if at attention. And the bell rang.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so proud to tell you that not one student left that room until they had gone to every veteran and thanked them. And the kids from the hallway poured in. And it was, the veterans were crying, I was crying. And one of the TV cameramen that was there, because I had called the local news and told them that something was going to happen that day. And one of the cameramen called me over and he said, with tears in his eyes, "Coach, I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I've never been welcomed home until today."
Oh.
And that, I only did it to make our kids realize what it means and how important it is that we appreciate those who have given and sacrificed so much for us. And I am very proud to tell you that so many kids stay in touch with me after I've retired, and they all still talk about what that day was like for them. And so many of them actually ended up, because I taught for 41 years,
Wow.
a lot of them ended up joining the military.
Mm-hmm.
And just knowing that I was able to help them see the gratitude that we need to have has made all the difference in the world. So that's, and I'm sorry, I get emotional. Every time I tell that, I'm right back in that classroom watching that door swing open.
And that's okay.
And those veterans come in. It's just, it's very moving for me.
How long have you been retired?
I retired in 18.
Okay.
So 4 years. This will be in May or June, 1st of June. It'll be 4 years.
Well, congratulations. And when did this take place?
Actually, it was 2005.
Okay. And it's still
And, I can't believe it. It keeps coming up. And I have received packages from around the world from people who had read the story and called the school and got the address. I've gotten letters from servicemen, from people in other countries, from all over our country. It has just been unbelievable, and I've made so many friends through this. And, of course, I still work for veterans. I'm very involved with the Veterans of Foreign Wars Auxiliary.
Mm-hmm.
And I work with veterans weekly. There's just never going to be enough that I can do to show our appreciation.
Well, coming from a big military family, I felt I had to do this. It was my honor to do this with you today.
Oh, I'm the one who is honored. I really, as I said, I was so shocked that it made the impact that it has, but I'm so grateful because of the fact anytime I can draw attention to our veterans and show people that how much we need to thank them, that's just, God has blessed me with that.
He had a mission, didn't he?
Yes, without a doubt. And I appreciate it, and I love working with our veterans, and just in fact, I've drawn I've only been married 3 years now.
Okay.
And my husband works. His name is not Cothren. I kept my maiden name because I'm so old. I don't want to do all the paperwork. When you have to change all the names, it's hard.
Oh boy, I get it. Yep.
But his father was in World War II, so he has joined our VFW auxiliary also, and does a lot of the projects with me.
Mm-hmm. Now, when this took place, what was the school administration doing to you? Were they giving you a problem?
Not at all. I had gone to my principal beforehand and told her what I wanted to do, and I was always willing to chip. And there's something about coaches that they're always going to be in the middle of stuff, and I was always willing to chip in and do whatever, and discipline and all of that. So she'd said, "Go right ahead." So the school district backed me completely.
Wow. Now I'm going to shift some gears here. When you see this in today's schools, where these kids step on the flags and they burn them and they do all this stuff, and the educators, because we have a lot of listeners, we're in 51 countries and we have 25 to 70,000 downloads per show, and our following is in the 43 million range.
Wow.
What would you tell these people, these educators, these kids, these just anybody in the school system today? What would you tell them if you were a teacher today and these kids were doing this?
If I were still teaching today, I would be happy to do it. In fact, a lot of teachers have contacted me from across the state of Arkansas and some from other states, and they have done the same thing to make the point to their students. And no one that has contacted me afterward has had any trouble with it. The schools have supported them. But now it's been several years. And, of course, when I see the pictures of them standing on the flag, it infuriates me.
Mm-hmm.
And it saddens me to think that our country has pulled so far away. And I know that sometimes all you have to do is actually sit with the kids. And I was very close with all of my students because I spent more time with a lot of them than their parents did.
Right.
Through coaching and after-school activities. And the kids did program activities all the time to help our veterans. So they were very happy to do that. And those kids, because we're friends on Facebook, they will come in and say, "Well, Coach, I'm still doing so-and-so with veterans. I'm still working." But I would encourage teachers to stop and think about how much we have been given, as all the opportunities we have and the blessings that God has given us. And if they stop and think about that and really dissect the parts of our lives and see what we would not have without those men and women who are willing to defend our rights as Americans, then it's got to touch them somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I really wish that, of course, I get very upset with all of the colleges that have, in fact, there are several colleges that have said that they don't believe that American history is a needed part of their curriculum. That it should not even be required for a teaching degree. None of them have gone completely through with it, but I know that several have changed their courses so they're not as in-depth. But unless you know the past, you're going to repeat the mistakes of the past.
Mm-hmm.
And we desperately need, as Americans, to realize that you learn from your mistakes. And when we see it, it doesn't even have to be our mistake. We can watch what's going on in another country and see what could happen if you are not prepared.
So we're condemned to our future.
I really want our teachers to stop, and I know teachers are pushed with so many things that are required by school districts because of their state regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And the federal government seems to have stepped in somewhat, trying to influence what would be taught in schools.
Right.
And I think that everybody needs to stop and think about how we got here and what it took for us to become the greatest country in the world.
Did you listen to the Paskey for the presidential speaker, and she says that we the government know best for our kids in schools?
Yes.
And how did
I did, and I really wonder from where they are able to pull that type of conclusion, because of the fact that obviously they're not realizing that they wouldn't even have an office or a position to hold if we were not a free country.
Good point.
You know, what we have is unlike anything else in the world. There are others who have copied what we have done, not to the extent of freedom that we have in most cases, but all we have to do is look at the countries that have not received the freedoms that we have,
Sure.
or the rights,
Yep.
and look at that and see what could be happening. Politics have... I don't think you can truly understand politics until you study history and you look at the mistakes that people have made for so many years and learn from those and try to realize, and I know selfishness is a part of all of us, and power tends to make people sometimes forget others and think only what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we must understand, and as we looked at, I had a big poster in my classroom that talked about capitalism, socialism, communism. And I put it in just plain everyday words for the kids so that they wouldn't have to look at a dictionary definition of it, but instead just look at it and say, oh, if this is this and this is this, I think I'm going to stick with the capitalism part.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping, I know that here in Arkansas, and I still go and speak at a lot of schools. I've been invited in to speak for Veterans Day or any other things that I've traveled around quite a bit in our state as well as some other states, and spoken there. And I've always received wonderful results from a welcoming group. The kids have always come up to the stage afterwards, or they've asked me to come by their classrooms. You know, they've been just so gracious and seem so happy to actually sit there and talk about it. And I spoke this past Veterans Day in a high school in northwest Arkansas, and I had kids who came down to me in tears afterwards saying, thank you for standing up for this, and thank you for coming in and talking to us. And during the time I spoke, and we were in a high school gymnasium, there were no sounds coming out of the kids, which
Dead
I've
quiet,
been in many classrooms, and I know that it's not always quiet in a classroom or an auditorium or a gymnasium. But the kids were so interested, and it meant so much to them that I was overwhelmed with gratitude simply because they were so gracious.
Well, I can speak for myself. I certainly thank you for what you've done, and the story inspired me to call you.
Well, and I'm so thankful, and I'm most grateful that you have such a large audience, and the fact that maybe something that we're talking about today will touch them, and they will go out and thank a veteran, or they will talk to their kids or their schools, and it will make a difference.
Now, we're kind of a political show here, a Second Amendment, God-fearing, political type of deal. We have a lot of senators and congressmen listening to this show. What would you tell them right now?
Well, with our VFW, I have traveled a couple of times to Washington, D.C. because we go up. It's a program that the VFW has put in for veterans and all, and we talk to our senators and representatives. And, of course, we're always looking for things to help our veterans. Mm-hmm. Medical care, the Agent Orange will continue to rear its ugly head for years to come, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But anything that will help our veterans is so majorly important. And when I get very upset when I realize I've seen so many, and I fit right into your audience because I'm very supportive of the Second Amendment and freedom-loving and loyal to our country without a doubt. But I want our representatives and senators to realize that sometimes they don't stop and think about the way their actions are coming across to our kids today. And I know we can't all be nice all the time. I know people are going to lose their temper and throw fits. But I also realize that you gain a lot more flies with honey than you do vinegar.
Yeah.
And if you sit and literally let them scream and yell if they will, but if you talk to them sensibly and stay with your point, and I'm also very religious, and I'm going to love them no matter what they say to me. You know, I'm still going to love them back because of the fact that's what Christ wants us to do. But sometimes we don't communicate with anything except anger, and that's not reaching our country. Our country is so torn with anger right now that we really need to realize that anger is not going to solve our problem. We have rights that were given to us by the men and the few women who influenced our constitutional writings, and we have a duty to follow that and uphold it. We have our own mission to make our country the best that we can possibly make it be. And until we begin to start seeing common sense answers coming out, instead of going so far and coming up with ideas like saying the parents are terrorists at school board meetings.
Right.
The parents have every right to be at school board meetings, and they have every right to know what their kids are being taught. Our job was to teach education, not personal things.
If a teacher can tell your political agenda, she should do something else or they should do something else.
That is true, and I admit, as a teacher, I was not good at that. I really tried not to push a political party or anything on them. What I tried instead was to make them realize, looking at cause and effect, what was right and what was wrong, and that their wants did not outweigh the wants of other people.
Mm-hmm. Well, today's agenda is with the current teachers, and I know in our school district, our school board, they're teaching stuff that our parents don't want to be taught. They don't want that stuff in their school, and yet the few of the scream are the people that set the agenda, and the rest of us sit back until we can't stand it no more, and then we rear our ugly heads, and there's a fight. So I'm not a person who wants to teach. I don't even know what the Furbies is one thing. They've got they're furries, so they put a tail on them. And they got to treat them like a furry, and there's all kinds of stuff going on up here in Minnesota, and you're like, what's going on here? Did you have any of that back down in Arkansas?
Not really. I know that many of our school board meetings that I attended, the parents were more concerned with things that would help their students. And I understand the 4 years I've been out have been a turbulent 4 years in our country because of the fact that we seem to have drifted so far away. schools should be for education about the courses the kids are taking. And I hate to get into, I don't want to make anyone upset or all, but gender issues should not be discussed at school.
Mm-hmm.
Those belong in a family setting, in a church setting, if needed.
Mm-hmm.
And what the teachers should be working on now is what will actually catch the kids' minds and hold it. We have become so technological that a lot of our kids don't even think through things.
Okay.
They just have a quick reaction, and the fact that they don't think about the consequences before they do things, they've become so used to being entertained by their phones or by television or computers that they can't entertain themselves any longer. And we're losing our sense of individualism to a degree. We go along with the crowd.
Sure. Wow, that's
I want our kids to say, we have, when I had never had children, and when I married my husband, I inherited 8 grandchildren.
okay.
And it has been quite an experience for me. So I have learned, in fact, we had 3 of our grandsons spend the weekend with us this past weekend, and just looking at the things that I would like for them to already know, they don't know that because it's not the way of life for them anymore. When we were first married and they were still quite a bit younger, they would, of course, all they wanted to do was come watch TV. No, you don't need to watch TV. You need to learn to do things for yourself. You need to go outside.
Okay.
We are so automated. It's sad.
I can understand that. But what do you do in today's world? Our technology has surpassed us.
And I wish I had a really good answer for it. I wish that I could just wave a wand and fix it. I know what I'm encouraging our grandchildren to do is to fight. If something that you want to do, don't just be swayed by what you read. And that's the other thing, they don't like to read anymore. They instead would rather watch it or listen to it, not rather letting themselves have various ideas. But I want them to be able to figure things out on their own and not get frustrated and say, well, I'll just throw this away and get something new. Right.
Well, it's kind of ironic. We're on a podcast, which is technology, preaching about not technology here.
Exactly. And technology is wonderful. It has made our lives so much easier, and I'm just shocked. I'm always amazed because if I have a question, I just pick up my phone and Google it.
Yep.
I'm amazed that Google can answer me how did they know the answer to that question so quickly? But I also want to be, I do read constantly also, and I'm always coming up with new different kinds, both history books, fiction, if you name it, I read it. And I want the kids to be able to read and understand the written word as well as simply hearing somebody say it.
If you were to tell people out there who are listening how they could get involved with their VFWs or what have you, what would be the best avenue for them to reach out to help their people?
We have VFWs in every state in Arkansas. I was very honored to be the state president of Arkansas's VFW auxiliary last year, and got to know the presidents from all the other states of their state auxiliaries.
Mm-hmm.
And we all discussed ideas and projects, but every state has got many VFWs in it. And there is, in order to become a member of it, you have to be a father or a mother, a grandfather or a grandmother, brother, sister, spouse of a veteran who has served in foreign conflict. And of course, a lot of our guys, actually our naval guys, didn't set foot in Vietnam, but their ships were there, for an example. And our guys in the Middle East. And of course, anyone in Afghanistan or even Korea, when we look at that. So as we look at those things, anyone who has that relationship, family-wise, and also they can be stepchildren of a veteran. I almost didn't, or grandchildren, step-grandchildren of a veteran.
Okay.
And as our ages, we're growing older today than we used to, and I argued the fact that, well, great-grandfathers, because I have many friends who are great-grandfathers, their grandchildren should be able to join the VFW also, or the auxiliary, but the IRS limits it to the grandfather level, grandmother level, and then the brothers, sisters, and mother, dad, and step-parents. So they can go to any VFW and go in and ask about their programs. So many times people think that the VFW is a place where old men go and drink beer.
Okay.
And that is true. That does happen in many of them.
All right.
But it also, in those VFWs, we do scholarships for high school kids. We do programs at Easter. We do programs at Christmas. We put together food baskets. We help homeless people. We are constantly teaching Americanism. We work out in our communities to make our communities better through an outreach program and community service. We have hospital programs that we work with. We hand out flowers that are called buddy poppies that are made mostly by veterans or their families that commemorate the buddy poppies from World War I.
Okay.
On Flanders Field is the poem that talks about the poppies in the field in World War I. So there's all kind of activities that we do legislatively. As I visited Washington, D.C., we visited with all of our Arkansas representatives and senators in their offices, and then we sat in on some of the meetings of the various committees and let them know that this is what we want them to support. And when you look at the membership of the National VFW and the auxiliaries, you are looking at several hundreds of thousands of members.
Wow. That's a lot of people.
It's a great group, and of course we do. We have a program that is legislative that we encourage our members, number one, to get out and vote. And we do not take a stand on any political candidate or either political party. We support the individual and encourage them
I see.
to do what they can for veterans.
Okay. Well, that's a whole lot to get going.
Oh, there is endless things that we can do. One of our programs going in to visit the hospitals. Of course, COVID slowed us down because we could not get into our VA hospitals, and we couldn't get into the nursing home. Well, everybody couldn't get in anywhere. And we still now are, I collect books and magazines and deliver them to our VA hospitals from people in the neighborhood or at church. Whenever we have, people will bring me things to take into them. And then we go up once a month and play bingo with them. We just do things to try to make their lives better. Mm-hmm. And then we visit, Arkansas has in Little Rock 2 VA hospitals. And of course there are what is called a CBOC, where in a lot of larger towns, and it's a medical clinic for veterans to go to because it's hard to travel all the way to where we have another veterans hospital in Fayetteville. So we really try to find ways to reach out in our communities and help the veterans. And we encourage other people to be there with us to, again, we need to show our appreciation, and we need to show our gratitude for what these men and women have done for us.
Outstanding. We are about 33 minutes, 10 seconds into this first segment here. We're going to have one segment today. And as a leaving a parting note here for people, I can only hope that you could give us some solace with this. What's your parting thought?
I am so grateful to my father for what he did for our country. I'm so proud of him, and I'm so proud to be his daughter. I loved teaching. I didn't go to work every day. I went and played every day because it was such a joy to be able to do that. I'm very competitive. I love coaching, and that competitiveness also makes me state the fact that our country is the greatest in the world. And I've been very blessed to travel around the world. I spent some time in the Soviet Union when that was back in the 80s or late 70s maybe. I can't remember the exact time, before the Soviet Union fell and became different countries.
Right.
And when you get to see what life is like in other countries, that makes you realize that God has blessed us beyond any other place, because we are so fortunate to have the rights we have. And I would so encourage everyone, stop and think about what you have and be grateful for the reasons we have it, and stop and think about what you can do for others, especially our veterans.
Well, very well said. And you always have a friend here at Hutcast, and this will air probably next Sunday.
Okay.
So
I'm going to see if we can figure out how to get it here in Arkansas.
I'll send you a direct link through your Facebook there so you have it.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time to contact me in the beginning and reaching out. I'm very, very honored.
Well, not as honored as I am today. I greatly appreciate what you did, and how your words of wisdom are just hands down the best I've ever heard in a long time.
Well, thank you. I'm very blessed. I'll tell you that. I thank God for everything I have.
Well, thank you too. And I'm going to wrap the show up here. So we have an extraordinary guest. We absolutely loved her story. Pay attention to the past, because you'll condemn you to the future. She said that. Oh wow! What can I say? It's beautiful. So thank you again, and we're going to call the ball at 36 minutes and 10 seconds into this segment. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap for Hutcast. Hutcast is, again, a pragmatic approach to seeing things how some people see them. If you like our show, give us a thumbs up on the Facebook site. Again, for Hutcast, thank you again. Have a wonderful evening.